What's up guys, Intellitech Studios here, and today we'll be doing a full review of the Dirt Devil Dynamite. This is Dirt Devil's attempt to compete with machines at the time that were in the budget, compact upright space designed for small apartments that were still carpeted. This includes competing machines like the Eureka Boss Superlight and the Bissell EasyVac. Although unlike the Superlight, this machine does not have any sort of brush roller shutoff or a secondary motor. This is a motor-driven brush, as it advertises right on the front of the unit, with a standard stretch belt. It takes the standard Dirt Devil style 15 belts and the Dirt Devil style F2 filters, which is basically just a tiny version of the F1 filters. So this machine, for a lot of people back in the day, was a pretty decent solution if you wanted a machine that was still really powerful, but also lightweight if you didn't need tools. Though there was a version that came later called the Dynamite Plus that has onboard tools, although they don't seem to be very good, but I don't have that unit, so I can't really say for sure. This is the base model Dynamite that does not have any sort of removable hose and just has a standard air path that goes from the brush up into the bin. So looking at this machine, one of the features that this machine has is you can push this button right here and telescope this handle out in order to both use it properly in the upright position, but you can also store it at the lower position, both for storage, and one little nice feature is, just like the Boss Superlight and unlike the Dyson DC-24, since it actually locks in this position, this is a good option for if you want your kid to actually be able to vacuum with a real machine, if they're at least tall enough to use it at this orientation, though the noise might be a factor, so you might want to give them some earplugs. That being said, this is a good option for that. And you can even remove the handle entirely if you absolutely need to for storage reasons. So the idea is that you can store this in a very, very small cupboard and hopefully not take up a lot of space if you have a super small one-bedroom studio apartment. That's at least the idea. Granted, nowadays most apartments are going to be all wood floor and have hardly any carpets at all. And while this machine does somewhat work on bare floors, it's not going to be great. In my experience using this on bare floors, this squeegee does help as far as not scattering debris, but it's still not perfect. It's definitely going to scatter a little bit of debris, and it's going to be very hard on your bare floors, so I don't really recommend it. Although one thing I do like about this is the very long and narrow bin design. It reminds me a lot of the Phantom Fury, because it uses a lot of vertical space and basically stacks the dirt upwards instead of outwards, so it makes the actual profile of the machine very slim. And that just clicks right on. Now, just like the Phantom Cyclone XT and a lot of other machines of the time, like the Eureka Maxima, there is no flap to empty the bin. You have to actually twist the top of it and pop it off. And you have your F2 filter right in here that twists off, and you have to remove this filter and tap it out every time you vacuum. And after you do that, you can dump out the dirt, because that filter sticks out enough that a lot of dirt won't dump out if you don't remove the filter. You can also wash this bin very easily, which I did, although I did turn it on briefly before this, and you can see it already got some dust in it, and I didn't even recline the machine. So the cleaning performance of this is still very good when you have a fresh filter in it. This is a nice Febreze filter, so it has the good smells as well. And as you can see, you just line it up right there and twist it until it locks into place. You want to make sure it's locked all the way in and clears that tab, because this is the only filter you have on the machine. Now, sometimes these machines will claim they have HEPA filtration, but that's simply not true, because while this filter in some cases can be considered HEPA media, it does look like a HEPA filter, it's not the final filter prior to the air exiting the machine. So even if the air passing through the filter is HEPA grade, the air that exhausts out of this machine is not going to be HEPA grade, because there is no final post-motor filter, so all the carbon dust and the dust that makes it through the filter is going to leak out the machine. But thankfully, since it is HEPA grade, it at least isn't super bad, but you still have to worry about carbon dust leaking out the machine, and it's not a sealed system, so there is a little bit of dust that will leak out too. But between the Eureka Boss Superlight and the Bissell EasyVac, this is definitely the best system out of all of those machines, especially because you can get this filter pretty full of stuff before it actually begins losing suction. So that's definitely a good factor. Although, since it's not the full-size Breeze F1 filter, it doesn't last quite as long as that. But for a compact machine, there is no proper fill line on this bin, and that's pretty much accurate, because you can fill this bin all the way up to the filter and not lose any suction, and you can even fill it up probably halfway up the filter and the vacuum will still work, although by that point it will start losing a little bit of suction. But if you stop and clean the filter, it'll be okay. So that's pretty much that. You've got a nice carry handle right up here. You got the release button right here. I used to love this machine a lot when I was a kid, and it's definitely a nice machine. So that's that. It is quite loud though, and this is one of the newer units with the whinier motor. So this particular version, as you can see, is model number UD4240. So this is also from 2009, and it has the much whinier motor than what the early versions of these had. Now these machines always had whiny motors, but for some reason these newer ones are just a little bit whinier than they normally are. But one other feature that's really nice is we do have multiple rotating cord hooks, which is kind of odd for a machine that's this inexpensive. But other than that, you've got a basic rocker switch right up here, and you just simply push on the front to recline it. There's no height adjustment, so it's just going to simply sit on the base of your carpet. So the belts, as a result, will need changed quite frequently. But other than that, there isn't really too much else to complain about. It is quite loud, as you can see, but even though it is loud and definitely requires earplugs, it does clean pretty okay, as you can tell by that little bit of dirt that it got up just from that small little area. I'll definitely have to dump that out before I give this to the customer. So I ended up selling this thing locally for only 25 bucks, so hopefully the person shows up, because that'll be annoying if they don't. But anyways, this is the full, very quick, in-depth review of the Dirt Devil Dynamite, because, yeah, it's not as in-depth as my other reviews, but there really isn't anything else to say about it, other than this particular one is in a pretty blue color that matches the new filter. So, that's pretty much it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. There's a cord clip up here, so that's good. And the cord is way too short, but you knew that already. And there's a sausage. Hi, Ruby. What do you think of the Dynamite? Okay, so anyways, this is Intelitech Studios signing out with a super quick, in-depth review of the Dirt Devil Dynamite. I mean, I would do a pickup test, but you already know how this is going to go. It's going to clean great on carpets, but it's going to scatter on bare floors, just like every other machine of this era. So that's pretty much that. Nothing out of the ordinary there. But anyways, that's the full review of the Dirt Devil Dynamite. I'll see you guys in the next video, and I hope you all have a good one. Peace.